Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this special edition preparing for Hajj. I have with me Sheikh Yusuf Estes, and the first time that we ever met was actually when we were performing Hajj.
Well, yeah, but we met on the telephone. But actually seeing each other, I was surprised. I was in Hajj. We were going to do that TV thing from out in Mina. And yeah, I saw you over there, and I said, so now I know what the lady looks like with the voice.
Well, that was my first ever Hajj, and it was an amazing experience for me. How many had you been on?
Now I think, well, this one coming up I think makes 6 for us. So we'll be doing Hajj, and any of you out there would like to join us, we hope you'll do that. Come and be with us for Hajj. And we should be pretty easy to find. I'll be wearing 2 towels, but never mind that.
But it is quite daunting. I must admit, when I was given the opportunity to go with the Islam channel, I barely had time to prepare. And in some ways that was great because I just went straight out. But for many new Muslims, in fact for many Muslims, you know, when it's a first-time experience and they're building up and preparing, what advice would you give to a Muslim who is about to go out to perform Hajj for the first time?
The best advice is the advice that was given to me by Yusuf Kavachi, the Imam of the Masjid in Dallas, Texas, where I went to get my advice from him. By the way, his daughter's Marwa Kavachi, the one from the Turkish who had to get out of town because she was elected to parliament. You remember? That's his daughter. And because she wore the hijab in the parliament, they kicked her out. So, anyhow, another subject. But anyway, he gave my wife and I very good advice, and he said that whatever you do, you take everything easy, step at a time. Be sure you get hooked up with a good group that knows what's going on. You need to have somebody help you with that. But one thing he told us, don't rent your hotel room over the phone.
Why is that?
Because it won't be there when you get there. But now they've changed all that. It's much easier now. It's required by the Saudi government that you go through somebody that's registered. Because so many of the people would find that they had no place to stay when they got there. You wouldn't find the person you were looking for. Your reservation is gone.
Well, I think those safeguards are pretty much in place in every country now. And of course, they need a Hajj visa, so you can only get your Hajj visa through an accredited agent.
They have to be an approved agent. That's right. Another thing that makes a difference, since 1993, when I first made Hajj, the first time, that the government of Saudi Arabia has improved a lot of the conditions over there. They have taken the initiative to really research and find out what will work and what we can do to make things without lessening the real Hajj or taking away from what Hajj is requiring, but at the same time making it so that they can facilitate the ease of the pilgrims when they go.
It is amazing when you imagine, you know, all those millions of brothers and sisters converging into one area.
Well, do you know that usually it's anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million, all the way up to 5 or even 6 million estimate on some occasions, to have all these people, you know, trying to do the same thing at the same time. Now, here's a city that's built maybe to handle 50 to 100,000 people during the rest of the year. But now all of a sudden you've got an influx of these millions, as you said. And now imagine that when they go out to Mina and stay at the campgrounds out there, you know, and then come back and do their tawaf and sa'i and then take off and everybody goes for Arafat. On Arafat, everybody at exactly the same time is in exactly the same place, and it is a big deal.
But you're racing ahead of me now, because what I really want to do with this program is to take the fear out of the whole exercise or the whole pilgrimage, because it is very daunting, especially for new Muslims. And, you know, Islam is the fastest growing faith in the world today. So there's lots of new Muslims coming in every year. They want to perform Hajj. And as I discovered, I mean, you have to be fit to perform it.
Right. Well, actually, that's one of the excuses that somebody can give not to do Hajj, is if they're not well, if you're not physically able to do so, if a person is ill, if they're not physically capable of performing Hajj, they're excused until they can. Or if they're never able to, then they can, they don't have to do it. But we should try, of course, if you can. And when Allah makes a way for you, and it's safe, then it's an incumbent and requirement of all the mature Muslims to once in a life do the Hajj.
Now, we also have a lot of non-Muslims who watch the channel because they're wanting to learn more about this great faith. Obviously, they'll come across pilgrims dressed in what appears to be 2 towels, ready to, which can be quite a strange sight if you're in Heathrow Airport in London, for instance. And you can see non-Muslims looking, thinking, what is that all about? How would you explain it to them?
Now, first of all, you're absolutely right. And it's a good dawah. It's a good way for us to bring up the subject with people when they see that and say, what the heck is going on here? For the women, of course, they wear their regular clothes. But for the men, they have to remove all their garments, everything. Except they can wear these 2 garments, which are similar to huge bath towels or beach towels, but nothing sewn on them. And these, one wrapped around the bottom part, and then the other you can kind of like throw it over to your taste, whatever you like, over the shoulders, etc. For the men, even he can't wear his regular shoes.
So what can you...
just like thong sandals, something like that. You can wear something like this. But your regular shoes and socks, you can't wear socks. You can't wear a hat, can't wear a kufi, you can't, like I got this on. All that's got to go.
So you've just got the 2 white pieces of material.
That's it.
And a pair of flip-flops.
If you're lucky.
But what is the purpose? Why dress right down to, like this?
There's a lot of things in Islam that we can guess what the purpose is. But the first and foremost purpose behind everything is an order from Allah. And that in itself is a purpose. Allah orders salah, and you do it. Allah orders zakah, and you do it. Allah orders hajj, and you do it. If you say, well, why? What's the benefit, for instance, Psalm Ramadan? Why should I fast Ramadan? Well, you could say, well, I could lose weight. Well, that'd be a point. Although I never did. And you could also say that the body needs to be cleansed, and this is certainly a fact, but the real reason behind everything is Allah said to do it. So that's why you do it. Now, what is it related to? Let us use that as more of a topic for this. It's related to the ceremonies and rituals that were done by Abraham and his son Ismail thousands of years ago. And they actually built this edifice up on a foundation that's been there since the time of Adam, by the way. And this edifice, which we call the Beit Allah, the house of Allah, it represents the place where we go to perform this. And you start right there by going around this 7
That's
times.
the big black cube that people
Well, we
see.
call it that, but originally it wasn't a cube. Originally it had an extended side. It came out, kind of rounded out, And but over the years, that for whatever reason was never rebuilt all the way. And the Prophet ﷺ even commented about it. There's something to the effect that he didn't want to change it, to leave it as it was. Thing though, that cube or square box in the desert, I think it's real key for our new Muslims and non-Muslims to realize that we do not worship the box. We do not worship anything in the box. Some people said, okay, Muslims are worshiping black box in the desert. I know I used to be one of those people who said that. Alhamdulillah, Allah guided me to Islam. But we do not worship anything in it either. And if anybody doubts that, they can. There's nothing. It's simple.
There's nothing in the box.
No. Used to be before Islam that the descendants of Ishmael got away from the original religion, they began to worship idols and statues and sun gods and moon gods and so on. In fact, there's Dr. Robert Morey's written a book, Attacking Islam, saying we worship a moon god called Allah. Well, he's taken the information based on before Islam and trying to incorporate it, make it look like that's what we do today. We do not worship anything in the box. We don't worship the box. We don't worship anything on the planet. In fact, we only worship Allah, and Allah is the object of worship for us, and He's the one who told us to do the rituals according to the way of Abraham. That's what we do.
So if we go back to the airport, wherever it is in the world,
Okay.
some brothers don't put on the 2 white pieces of cloth. They wait until they get on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And on my flight, an announcement was made, and the men disappeared and then emerged, changed into the white cloths. What was that about?
Yeah, there's a marker. These markers are established to be so far away from the Kaaba or the Haram area where pilgrimage is done. And when you reach that marker, it's too late. You cannot put it on then. You have to go back outside of the marker. Then you put on the ihram, from the word haram, by the way. Mm-hmm. When you're in ihram, or you got the garments on, there's everything becomes suddenly forbidden, and that's why it's called haram. You can't anymore do certain things.
So during the time of
it's a state of mind along with the clothes, by the way.
Right. So during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when pilgrims used to come from hundreds of miles away, mm-hmm. on foot, on camels, on horse, they would reach a point where they would then change from being travellers into pilgrims.
Yeah. When you reach the Makat or the marker area, then you'd get off your horse or whatever, and in the airplane you can just go in the bathroom somewhere.
And so that's when they make an announcement on the plane that we're
approaching. Yeah, they're telling you it's coming up, and then the guys go in there, and the women don't have to do it. Isn't that nice?
Why do women not have to do it?
Again, it's Allah's choice, but He knows
we get
women.
Off so
He
lightly.
makes it. Well, you know, so many of the things that Allah has made easy for women. If we digress for a moment. I heard people talking, they're not Muslim, they're saying, why Islam doesn't give equal rights to women? And you say, really, you want it to be equal? And even some Muslims, they didn't know very much. They said, yeah, we want everything to be equal in Islam. I said, really? And when you make Shahada, what's the first thing after Shahada you have to do? They said, pray. I said, how many times a day? They said, 5. I said, how many days a week? They said, 7. And I said, how many days out of the year? They said, 365. I said, no, not for women. Because women are excused from the salah during their monthly time. And mm-hmm. during the monthly time, she has not to worry about the subject. And she doesn't have to keep up with it and make up for it. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Well, okay, and then I ask them, would you like to cancel that? And they go, no. And the same is true of fasting. During the fasting time, they don't fast during that time of the month. And here is something in Hajj also. Women don't have to have these 2 towels. But they're still in a state of ihram. You still need to make the niyyah or intention before you reach that point. You know, you need to be sure that you've made this intent. Because as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا أَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that all of the amal or actions are going to be rewarded according to what was the intention that went with it. And this intention for Hajj needs to not only be in your mind, but it's a good idea to mention it. Just mention, you know, I'm going to be doing Hajj Atamatu, for instance, which means the Hajj of pleasure. This one is, we're going to kind of get into something here now, is when you have the Hajj where you're going to do Umrah, you're going to come out of Ihram, and then you're going to go back into Ihram later when it's time for your Hajj, and you're going to have Hajj and Umrah together, but with a separation time in between for pleasure. That's what it's called that. Now, in the other case, you might say, I just want to do Hajj only. So you'd put it on and you'd stay in it until Hajj is over, and then you come out of it. The third option is something a person can do is do Hajj and Umrah together, where they'll do Umrah, Hajj, and then finish. But in this one, they don't take off the Ihram in between.
How would you explain Umrah?
Umrah. Umrah is also called the lesser Hajj or lesser pilgrimage. But it's real simple to do. In fact, I've done it a couple of times when I didn't go for Hajj. 2 other times I visited Saudi and did it. And it's really neat. If you're used to Hajj, you come in and you do Umrah. This is easy, you know, because basically, again, you'll have your 2 towels on, or your ihram. You'll come in, you've made your intentions on, you get into the airport, you go through the process and everything, go on out to Mecca. Go straight to Mecca, go straight to the Kaaba, and then you do your